You are live on the Tuesday Review on 98.9 Northwest FM. I'm Nathan, joined by James again this week. How you doing, James? Or something's made you happy?
I've got one thing, but I'll hold on to that for a bit. Can something make you this is a different thing. Can something make you happy if it makes you cringe the hardest you've ever cringed in your life?
Are we talking about the rehearsal again?
Yes, we are. Episode 4 of the rehearsal. I almost retreated into like the folds of my couch. It was, he keeps outdoing himself.
Okay.
So but in a weird...
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
in a very weird, cringy way.
It's a show that, you have to be ready for it.
Yeah.
It comes at you quick. It makes you feel uncomfortable, but that's the point, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the show almost, is the search for connection.
Yeah.
So, cringe. How much of it, we've talked about this before, how much of it is a setup, how much of it is scripted, how much is that guy an actor, or is he really, that uncomfortable, I
think that guy's real, but then, the way Nathan pushes it,
yeah.
And, last week we were talking about, how much is real and how much is setup, and it's then, after that episode came out, with the Sully Sullenberger thing, it was just people were debunking it, and they're oh, it's not actually, true, and this, that, and the other. But it's it doesn't matter, because that blending of you don't really know, and the way Nathan Fielder keeps pushing it,
Yeah.
it's just, oh my God.
As for me, something small that made me happy this week, I had my favorite cheesecake from a local cafe, which I'm probably not allowed to be advertising for, but
you have to. I think I know which one you're talking about, but you let me know afterwards, because I love
we
cheesecake.
obviously can't be advertising for local businesses on the air, but it's my favorite local cheese. They do the best San Sebastian cheesecake.
Oh, that place! Yes.
So good. That made me happy.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, I've been trying to be a good guy, a good boy, and stay off the sugar, but I'll have to go back there for a special occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess we'll go straight into it. I watched... do we have anything else?
No, I was just going to say last week we were planning to do time loop movies. This week we're planning to do time loop movies. Unfortunately, Alan couldn't make it again, and Callum's off sick again. So we're going to hold on to that again for a while. I don't know if we're ever going to get round to it.
We'll try our best.
Yeah, because next week, you know what next week is?
Oh, yeah, the Impossible Mission.
Impossible. Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, anyway, we're just going to wing it and see what happens this episode.
I watched Conclave.
Oh, nice.
It was timely
when
I watched it, in celebration. They hadn't quite... I watched half of it before bed one night, and then I woke up and the next Pope had been chosen, which I was kind of let down by. I was like, damn it. I wanted to watch it before the Pope got chosen.
Well, this is why you always watch movies in one sitting.
I know.
Because you and Callum I do not like how you guys watch movies.
I understand, but I would watch significantly less movies if I had to sit there in one sitting and watch it. Because I watch it before bed, and then I get too tired. I'm laying in my bed watching a movie, and then it's all of a sudden it's sleep time. So
yeah, but that's
I know.
Anyway.
Yeah, I know. You're
doing it wrong.
I know.
I mean, I guess I don't want to tell people what to do, but you're doing it wrong.
I know I'm doing it wrong, but it's the only way I can do it sometimes.
Yeah,
that's life. But I liked it overall.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah.
I think it was a shame because it's one of the best looking movies of the year, and it wasn't nominated for best cinematography, I don't think. So that was a shame because it looks fantastic.
Yeah, Ray Fiennes is a great.
Good.
Delivers
Everyone's
a great performance.
Good in the movie,
Everyone's good in that movie. I did like the kind of... It's a very political movie, obviously, because it's all the different factions and, who gets to be the next...
Yeah, it's
the next Pope.
There's the really conservative Pope, and then the Cardinal and then there's the more progressive Cardinal. It's who's going to vote for who, and, you have to have 75 votes or something. So it's and if you don't reach that majority or whatever, then they have to vote again. And they're cut off from the outside world. They're not allowed to have communication or know what's going on.
Except some of them cheat a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's part of the part of the intrigue of the movie. It's who's
who's doing what?
Yeah.
I liked it. I'm not going to go. We can't really.
No,
go into
we won't go
spoilers.
into spoilers. Yeah.
But yeah, I
But-
really enjoyed it. I like the whole kind of political machination aspect of
Yeah.
it, and like the intrigue.
Yeah. It's really good.
I also like the
It's
kind
like
of.
a
I'm not going to call it a twist at the end, but there's like a little kind of
Yeah.
a revelation.
yeah, and it's like a good like political thriller or something, but about the electing the new pope.
It's-
You know.
One of the movies we say that don't really make anymore is kind of that
Almost,
adult-oriented
yeah.
drama.
Yeah.
Kind of like a smaller scoped adult-oriented drama. It's
Yeah.
like it's not heavy on action. It's not heavy on
Yeah.
explosions or popcorn themes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah.
It is interesting though. Yeah, because when it came out, and yeah, now we've got the new pope who's American guy, I think, which that's interesting,
Yeah.
especially considering how America's going these days.
I do like the
So-
fact that the current pope had been vocal on Twitter in the past about how much he disliked
Yeah, so it's gonna
Trump
be
and JD
it's gonna be
Vance.
interesting.
Yeah. Obviously, now as the head of the church and like the monarch of the Vatican and whatever else other hats he has to wear, I'm like, he's probably going to be a bit more restrained in that.
Well, that's kind of the.
But
I mean,
I
we
do
go
like
on
the
all
fact
night,
that
but
everyone knows in his heart of hearts the new pope is not a
Yeah.
fan.
but I guess like if you are, you know, because I have big problems with the church and organized religion in general, but you know, if you're the pope and you hold a certain view, and then as soon as you become pope, you find you have to play, you know,
mean, is
centrist. It's the same with politics. It's like you should stick to your guns.
I think it's more just like of a world leader kind of thing. Like you have to be friendly.
No.
You have
You
to.
know, call out Nazis when you see them. You know.
Yeah, I know.
You know, call
I
them
know.
out, because we keep doing this thing of like, oh, you have to be diplomatic, you have to do
Yeah.
this, you have to do, and I'm like, the bad guys aren't being diplomatic.
Mm.
They're playing by their own rules, and we, you know, the you know, left side or whatever, progressives or whatever, like we're trying to take the high road, and where is it getting us? Nowhere.
Mm.
So at a certain point, we just have to be like, hey, you know what? You guys are Nazi dogs, and we need to stop you at all costs. And it does it like, because they don't care. They
No.
make stuff up all the time. Like they're carrying on all the time.
It
so.
would be. What would happen? Because like, if the Pope decided to come out and like just go full hardcore, like we disavow all of these nations and peoples and like things that are doing wrong, right?
Mm.
That would be a spicy timeline. If the Pope came out,
I feel like
with,
the Pope used to do that back in
Yeah.
the good old days.
Yeah.
You know, when you went to war and you're a knight.
Yeah.
But now it's like, yeah, it's less.
Because I'm like, obviously a lot of say America in the Bible Belt, they're not Catholic, they're evangelicals,
Yeah,
right?
they
So
hate
wouldn't-
they hate the
hate-
Pope.
yeah.
Doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so it wouldn't really have that much effect on America because Catholicism, it's not that
Yeah.
big where religion counts. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to see what it would do to like Europe and stuff if the Pope came out and said, "This is wrong. I don't care what you think."
You know,
If the Pope, if the Catholic Church actually took a moral stance on things that outside of like bullshit they shouldn't actually be concerned
That's
about. You know
true.
what I mean?
Yeah.
If the church stood for something real and not just about gender equality or gender rights and other things that
Yeah.
they have a historical problem with, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the Catholic Church. We went to Catholic schools. Right? You know,
Yeah.
we're a part of that program.
technically
you know?
raised
we're
Catholic, yeah.
Catholics, but I don't think the Catholic Church kind of, and they can't even touch up on this in the movie.
Mm.
It's like you've got, is it Stanley Tucci's character, and he's like,
Yeah.
these are the real issues, and then you've got other cardinals who are like, oh, the only thing he cares about is make sure the gays go to hell.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
like-
exactly. It's the same with politics. If you've got Republicans who are just doing the culture war so they can pick everyone's pocket and
Yeah.
get away with murder, when there are actually, you know, world changing huge problems that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
That we aren't dealing with because we have to keep arguing. It's like, oh, you know, the gender, what do you call it? Identity politics
Yeah.
or whatever. It's like, this is a distraction
Mm.
by conservatives, by right-wing psychos, by these Nazi...
But it's a crutch that especially conservative religious figures seem to lean on heavily.
Yeah, because as in America, it shows that it kind of works because it worked here when there was the whole Tony Abbott stop the boats thing, and
Yeah.
it was like, what boats, man? But people were terrified, and they
Yeah.
you know. And luckily it didn't work for Peter Dutton
Yeah.
this time, where he was trying
And the old crime gangs, African crime.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Which they tried to bring back, but it didn't really
yeah, and
work.
it's like, dude,
Everyone's
what are
just
you
like,
talking
no.
about? Shut up.
Was
yeah.
it like, Peter, gone back off on a tangent a little bit, but Peter Dutton was like, people in Melbourne are afraid to go to the shops.
Yeah, it's like, no, we aren't. Shut up.
What are you talking about?
They do that all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, like Conclave actually has a little bit to say on these kinds of issues because it
Yeah,
examines
if
the
you're-
different cardinals and their perspectives. And
Yeah.
Ray Fiennes just trying to survive the Conclave, being
guess-
like, God damn it, these people, these damn people.
I guess if you're not religious, it's still a really, really good movie, and it's
Yeah.
definitely worth checking out. And you don't really have to know anything about it. I mean, there are certain rules. I mean, that they follow and dogma, but I mean,
I think everything's
it's-
pretty much explained.
it's explained in the movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, nothing you can't just Wikipedia if you're really confused.
I don't think there's anything important you can miss by not knowing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, yeah, they everything you need to know is in the movie.
yeah.
But yeah, it's always good to have historical context.
Yeah,
And
so
stuff.
I watched that before and slightly after we got the new Pope. You know, let's hope he does well, and let's hope he takes the church into a good direction where things can meaningfully change.
Well, I don't think that's gonna happen.
I mean, no,
Yeah.
you know, I guess, you know, things,
We can
there's
dream.
probably, we can dream, but there's probably structures in place to stop the Pope being too much of
Yeah.
a,
Yeah,
a,
it's-
like a vanguard.
She'd
of
change
change.
anything, yeah.
The other bishops would be like, nah, mate, he's losing his marbles. Oh, he's getting a bit too old.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
getting dementia. Oh,
Well,
God.
yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
sorry,
they
Pope,
used to
off into a
assassinate
nursing home.
popes and
Yeah.
whatever, so...
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's cool too because I went to Rome last year, so every time I watch a movie now, that's...
Lucky point.
Yeah, I'm like, I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. What have you seen recently, James, that you enjoyed?
Well, speaking of Rome, I rewatched Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, because the
Is that
next
part one to this one?
because remember it was called Dead Reckoning Part 1,
Mm.
and this new Mission Impossible was supposed to be Dead Reckoning Part 2.
Didn't they change the
But
name?
then I guess there was delays and stuff, and they changed the name. So the new one is The Final Reckoning, and I guess now this first one is just Dead Reckoning, which is what I call it. Sometimes, the poster and IMDb, it still lists it as Dead Reckoning Part 1, but it's just Dead Reckoning. But yeah, so I thought in preparation of seeing the new movie this weekend, I thought would rewatch the one before it, Dead Reckoning. Yeah, and there's a chase scene through Rome, and I was like, I've been there.
I've seen dangerous driving on those roads.
Well, yeah, Tom Cruise is a better driver than most of those. But yeah, it's such a good movie. Like, as someone who, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the new movie, as someone who wasn't really a fan of most of the Mission Impossibles until Fallout, the sixth one, it's just amazing how 6, 7, and now 8, assumedly 8, are really good.
Bring a franchise back to life.
Yeah. Because, people like to talk about how great, 4 and 5 were, but I wasn't, I have problems with those. Yeah, it wasn't until Fallout, the 6th one, where I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then Dead Reckoning, watching it again, I was like, holy crap, there's just nothing else like it. Tom Cruise is the only guy doing it, with Top Gun Maverick and Mission Impossible. Every other...
Look, we've talked about it before. You can have problems with him. You can not like him. Or you can like him or not. But he's the man doing the practical stuff.
Yeah, he's putting his life on the line for our entertainment.
That's it. He's the one. He's the one being in actual planes in Top Gun.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Being actually
hanging off of planes in Mission Impossible.
Yeah, he's the guy holding his breath. Underwater, doing it for our pleasure.
Yeah, it's like I appreciate it, and it's not something you see in any movies anymore because they're all CGI superhero kids movies. So it's just Dead Reckoning was really good rewatch. For an almost 3-hour movie, the editing and pacing is just so good. I was just like, damn, they really get through a lot, and I was never bored. And yeah, it's just such a fun movie. So many good sequences and great characters. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next one, Final Reckoning. We're going to see that in IMAX, or at least Callum and I are. And so I'm really excited for that because, Yeah, it's if it is the last one. I mean,
Look, I hope so. Only because Tom's getting older.
well, yeah,
And, you don't want it to start getting sad.
yeah. I mean, I think he knows he'll do it as long as he can. Yeah, but I mean, whether he'll, I mean, it is called The Final Reckoning. I mean, whether that means anything.
Because I'm also kind of excited to see him do movies other than Mission Impossible and Top Gun.
Well, yeah, I can't remember if we
more...
talked about on air, but he's signed up to do like a drama for, who was it? Was it Inarritu?
The Revenant guy, yeah.
Yeah. I always forget because there's all those Mexican directors who are all like contemporaries.
Yeah.
There's Inarritu and there's...
I think it was the dude who did The Reckoning. The
Revenant.
The Revenant.
Revenant.
But yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't rewatched it yet, I should say. I'm going to rewatch Dead Reckoning in the next day or two. In anticipation, we're going Saturday to see it.
The new one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Me and Callum and the other guys are going Sunday on IMAX.
So I'll spoil it immediately when I watch it.
Oh, you're a dead man. Dead man.
That would be the end of the show if that happened, I think. James would be like, man. I'm not, that's it, we're done. Because what is it? Allegedly in this movie, there's like something they haven't, there's stunts and there's scenes and there's action that is so insane, people can't believe it's real. But it is real. Because is that hype or is that real? We don't, is this, is it worthy of the hype?
Because I know Tom Cruise has said he wants to make a movie like in space, like an actual movie filmed in space.
Yeah.
And I think they were working. Yeah, it's like I think they were working on that. I thought that was a different project. I can't really remember the details. But if they managed to do that for this movie and keep it secret,
I think they could do it. I reckon they could get away with it.
But you'd think it'd leak by now. At least like a little bit of chatter here and there.
Yeah, but the power of Tom. He's
maybe
the president of movies.
Yeah.
And
he's not human. He's not human.
I just think if there's anyone that could be like, please keep it a secret, and everyone would do what he wants, it's Tom.
Yeah.
Because he had, like him or not, he has a lot of soft power in the industry.
Yeah.
For someone who's not part of a studio, he has a lot of soft power.
Yeah. His
name is money. You know what I mean? He brings money, his influence.
Yeah.
If he goes to space, I could imagine it. Like, I could see it happening.
I just, it's hard to believe they keep anything secret nowadays, with the internet and stuff. But I mean, they still do.
But yeah, I don't know. From what we've been reading, it's insane and it's like completely unexpected in the movie. So I guess we'll see. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
Yes, much excitement.
Yeah.
I also watched, I guess, Britain and the Blitz, a new Netflix doco. I was a bit underwhelmed. Like, the subject matter for a documentary series should be quite substantial.
For the Blitz, yeah.
Yeah, you would imagine, right? But it's like an hour-and-a-half documentary, and they kind of start right at the beginning of the Blitz to right at the end, right? And there's a lot of kind of facets to this. It's the radio workers, like the soldiers, like going on the fighter planes and everything else, and the bunkers, just people living in the streets, people living in the underground stations.
Yeah.
All the kids being evacuated. So you've got all these different elements you can look at, and the movie kind of, it just grazes them each and moves on. And I was like, no, tell me more about essentially a whole town living in like the subway.
The tube.
Yeah, you got the whole community living in the tube. Tell me more about that. How was life like that? Because they were there for months.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to know more about that.
Yeah.
Don't just tell me this happened, give me a couple photos and move on. That's blue balling me. Like, I want to talk. You're talking to people about it. I'm sure you've got dozens of hours of interviews about this, right?
Every time we talk about one, is this a Netflix documentary or a streaming documentary? Yeah. So every time we talk about one of these, I'm like, the ones that are a series should usually be cut down to movies, and the ones that are movies should usually be expanded to series. I don't understand how it keeps happening. I guess it's just whatever, the makers of the documentary might have come to Netflix with a series, but Netflix is like, our algorithm tells us that at this moment right now we need another documentary movie. So it's like, okay. So it might just literally depend on what's going on.
They could have redeemed it by making it like a 2.5-hour movie.
That's the other thing. Yeah, just make it.
But it's like 90 minutes, 90 something minutes. It's on and finished.
Also, you know, I was just sort of complaining about how you and Callum like watch movies like cut up. I'm like, well, I guess most people probably do that, especially with streaming. It's so easy to just pause something or turn off your TV and then come back and it's in the same place.
Yeah.
So it's like if a movie or a show or documentary is 3 hours long,
shouldn't make a difference.
People can watch it as they want.
There was a documentary recently in the last few years about the occupation of Amsterdam.
I watched that. It was like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing in one sitting.
In one sitting.
As one should.
Wow.
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, that's cool.
Yeah.
As you said, it's streaming. Just let people pause it, turn it off if they need to.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, like, I wanted to know more about each kind of, I guess, part of the Blitz. You know, each kind of facet of this event they were talking about. I want to know more. Because they only, like, they'd stayed on each subject for, like, 20 minutes at a time or less. And they moved on. And I'm like, that's not enough for me to appreciate it.
I mean, I'm sure there are heaps of documentaries about the Blitz.
But I'm talking about this one specifically.
Yeah. So yeah, you could probably, but yeah, it's like when you're always on the lookout for like the definitive version, and you'd think like if there is a subject that is the subject of multiple documentaries, and there's a new one, you'd hope that it's like, oh, they've got something new to tell, or they've got...
I mean, I think the definitive one is probably, what is it, World War II in colour? That's like the definitive one, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all of World War II, not just... Yeah. I mean, what's the Ken Burns World War II? I'm sure there's probably a bit on the Blitz in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could do a whole Ken Burns like series on just the Blitz, probably.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say I liked it. Like, I'd liked what I saw, but I wanted to see more.
Yeah.
There's another one I haven't watched yet. Did you watch Netflix has this new kind of line, The Turning Point, and they did one on the atomic bomb in Russia.
Oh, okay.
That was really good, and they've just released another one on the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And that's more fleshed out. Each episode is like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and there's like 8 episodes.
Yeah, I watched the Ken Burns Vietnam one when it came out.
That's the classic.
That was like, I knew a lot about Vietnam, but that was like insane, like how much stuff. And I was like watching it during the first Trump administration. I was like, there were so many parallels, and I'm like, this is terrifying. We're doomed. And now all these years later, we're back.
We're still
Trump
doomed.
2.0, and I'm like, we're doomed even more. This keeps happening. History repeats itself. The Nazis keep coming back. It's like we had a world war over this. Please.
It's bad, bro. Like, you've seen the new Kanye song? We're not going to dignify it.
Well, yeah, let's not even...
No, but the fact that it's popular on the internet and you got all kinds of people singing it, I'm like, do you learn nothing in school?
No, they don't.
Anyway.
No one learns anything.
We'll move on
before
we get upset. We'll move on before we get upset.
Too late.
Too late.
Every time it's just me and you, I know. We're like, what are we talking about? Oh, politics. Religion.
It's just me and James in the studio. We're talking about how much we hate the Nazis. It's always okay to punch a Nazi. Anyway.
100%.
Moving on to something...
Speaking of punching Nazis, we still have to do our Indiana Jones rewatch. Because for years, even back on the old show, we were like, oh, we've done Star Wars, we've done Lord of the Rings. Now let's do Indiana Jones. We still have to do that one day.
We do.
Maybe another 10 years.
Maybe. If the planet's around that long.
Yeah, if we make it.
Moving on, have you watched anything else interesting?
I did watch... Let's see here. I watched a horror movie called Haunt from 2019.
I feel like I've heard of it.
Yeah, which I've seen the poster. Like, I feel like I've seen the poster a lot. Like, it's this guy, like these guys in masks. And I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And I kept meaning to watch it. And I was in my Netflix queue for, watch later list for ages and ages. And I was leaving Netflix, so I was like, well, I guess it's my last chance to watch it on...
I feel like I might have seen this.
Yeah. Anyway, it's about a group of, like, college friends who go to one of those, like, haunted houses where... it's like an escape room kind of thing where you go in and there's, like, skeletons in the corner room and there's, like, a guy in a mask with a chainsaw and he chases you around and, it's like one of those kind of... fun house kind of experiences. But of course, in horror movie fashion, this one turns out to be real. So they get chased around this, scary haunted house attraction, but all the kills end up being real.
I've seen this movie.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't think I'd heard much about it, but I ended up like enjoying it. I thought it was pretty good.
I think it had its moments, but I remember it being a little bit mid.
Yeah, I think it's one of those movies though where you watch it and you're like, oh, I'm surprised I haven't seen this earlier. Like, it's not great, but it's like a movie that's
It has a
sort
little
of
edge,
different. Yeah, it's different enough, and it's like, maybe not a cult classic, but it could make its way there perhaps. So just because there's so many horror movies out there, it's hard to keep up and keep track. But yeah, I was watching it and I was like, I'm surprised I haven't seen this or heard about it more. But yeah, I enjoyed it overall. But yeah, it wasn't great. I think there's some really good gore effects, but unfortunately most of the kills are pretty tame, and like there's like some CGI blood. I was like, if all the violence and kills were as good as those practical ones, it would have elevated it a bit more. And there's like a cool, I don't know if you call it a reveal, but there's some cool stuff towards the end, and yeah, it was okay. It wasn't bad.
I have to rewatch it. It's been a while since I've seen it.
I think it's worth
a couple of years ago.
Worth checking out. If you're a horror movie fan and you've made your way through all the everything else, I think it's worth checking out. Yeah.
We'll be back with more Tuesday review right after these quick messages. You are back on the Tuesday Review live on 98.9 Northwest FM. Moving along, one of the other movies I watched this week that I hadn't seen, and it has a reasonably stacked cast for its time, was Shall We Dance, with starring Richard Gere. Back when he was the romantic kind of comedy leading man. I mean, he could still pull it off, I reckon. But he's older now. Yeah. Depends on the movie. But it also stars Jennifer Lopez, Susan Sarandon, Stanley Tucci, Bobby Cannavale, and some Nick Cannon, and some others, notable actors.
Solid 90s cast.
Yeah, solid 90s cast. But I'd never seen this before, and, I would have thought this would have been one that's everywhere. But I hadn't really seen it on streaming services before. So.
That's the problem with streaming. There's so many of them and there's so many movies, and yet when you want to watch something, it's not there.
Yeah. So I noticed it. I'm like, that's a pretty stacked cast. I'll give it a watch. And I like it. I don't love it. It, unfortunately, reeks of boomer humor kind of vibes, where kind of like, it doesn't go, ha ha, I hate my wife, but it goes...
Yeah.
It's, haha, my life is unfulfilling even though I have everything and my wife supports me unconditionally.
Yeah.
And it's kind of got cheating kind of vibes, but the wife is like devastated the entire movie because she thinks he's having an affair, right? But in reality, he's taking dancing lessons. And he's deeply embarrassed. But he also kind of started these dancing lessons because he has the hots, I guess, for Jennifer Lopez, even though he's way too old for her.
Yeah, man.
I know.
It's the movies.
But he's also, it's the movies, but like, he still like loves his wife, and it's not the intention, but the movie has weird vibes. It has very weird vibes. And I liked it, but I just feel like, why can't you just be honest with your wife and just say, hey, I'm taking dancing lessons. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, especially with your wife. I mean...
Yeah, and he talks in the movie about how much he loves his wife and his life is perfect with his wife, but he just needs to do these dancing lessons. I'm like, cool, then invite your wife.
Yeah, why don't you do dancing lessons? That would be a great, like...
It's a great bonding activity. Yeah, and that, like, mild spoilers, when she eventually finds out, she's just like, why didn't you just ask me to do dancing lessons? And he didn't have an answer. I'm like, at least the writing was realistic from that standpoint, right? He was just like, shrug, I don't know.
But we've talked a lot about before how if you think about almost any romantic comedy for more than a second, it's like makes no sense. It's not a romantic
comedy because there's no romantic lead, right? It's meant to be Jennifer Lopez, but, but he loves his wife, so he's not going to do that with J-Lo.
So there's not a will there, won't there kind of thing?
No.
What the hell? What's the movie
It's
about?
built as a romantic comedy with no romance, I guess, but the romance is dancing.
Now I have to watch this movie. Maybe I'll get a different vibe from it. I don't know.
But there's no romantic chase.
Mm.
There's maybe you question whether or not he's going to have an affair.
Mm.
But like he loves his wife and he's dedicated to his family. But for some reason, he's just embarrassed about his hobby. That's the kind of the conflict, I guess, is his own inner turmoil about wanting to dance.
I mean, you could definitely do a movie like that, but
the movie screams rom-com without the rom. Stanley.
How about
Tucci,
the com?
It has some com, but Stanley Tucci as Link is amazing in this movie.
Yeah,
he's
they're like the best friend.
Sort of.
Okay,
I won't go into it.
Oh, okay.
Stanley Tucci is my favorite actor in this film. I think
he's a good time. He was in Conclave as well.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked about romantic comedies, how they don't make them like they used to, and I feel like in the 90s there was, what was that one? Was it with Antonio Banderas, Save the Last Dance? I never saw it, but I feel like there was a period in like the 90s, maybe early 2000s, where there was a bunch of like romantic comedies like about, or romance movies like about dancing and stuff like that. Maybe it's just those two movies, but I feel like there's more. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, look, it's enjoyable, but I had weird vibes with the kind of the tone. A lot of the tone is just like, mate, if you just trust in your wife more, you would have none of these problems. That's kind of my vibe.
But a lot of movies are like that, where you're just like, dude, just tell them how you feel at the start of the movie, then we don't need to sit through this 2 hours.
Yeah.
But then you don't have a movie, I guess.
So I watched that. And we both watched Drop, the new film.
Yeah, so Drop came out recently and it's now on video on demand. It's interesting because I wanted to talk about, again, not to harp on this, but we're supposed to talk about the time loop movies, including Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. And the director, Christopher Landon, of those movies, his new movie, Drop, came out recently. So I was like, it would be fun to sort of mention those together. What's also interesting is after I watched Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You, which I enjoyed, I was like, I should watch his next movie, Freaky, which was that body swap movie with Vince Vaughn.
I intentionally avoid that movie.
No, but I ended up liking that the most out of the 4 of his movies.
So I should watch it.
Yes.
Okay.
So if we do end up doing I don't know, I keep saying this. I'm repeating myself because we're in a time loop, actually. We every time...
Every Tuesday now, it's just me and James.
Yeah, it's just...
We get in here like politics, religion.
Callum's sick again. It's the same day over and over.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll talk more about Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You and the time loop aspect perhaps another time. But yeah, so Christopher Langdon, who directed those, he did Freaky as well, which I think you and probably Callum would enjoy because it's like Happy Death Day, but I think it's just done...
Wait, is Freaky the one...
Freaky's the one where the teenage girl
Is there a serial
swapped.
Killer involved?
Yeah, Vince Vaughn is a serial
killer. Yeah, no, I like
killer.
that movie. I thought you were talking about like a Freaky Friday kind of movie.
It is a Freaky Friday.
No, but it's the serial killer one.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's a good film.
You seen that?
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay,
yes.
yeah. So
Freaky's good.
Yeah. So yeah, Vince Vaughn is a serial killer and Catherine Newton, is that her name? She's like a teenage girl and they accidentally swap bodies and so now she's in Vince Vaughn's like serial killer body.
Yeah.
And the serial killer is in her teenage body and they have to stop them and switch bodies back.
Good movie.
Yeah. And so, you've got that gimmick and you've got the Happy Death Day movies, which is like a slasher, but with the time loop where she keeps dying and re-waking in the same day. So his Happy Death Day I enjoyed, but yeah, it's like those were very PG-13. The kills were very safe and...
Freaky goes a lot harder.
Yeah, Freaky I actually really enjoyed because it's like the kills were really fun and the gore was really cool and the practical effects were really good.
Freaky feels like he's earned his stripes a little bit from the first 2 movies.
Yes.
And now he's like, I want to do a movie like this, but I want to make it actually like a proper horror film instead of like a PG-13 early teen film.
I'm happy. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see the like what the behind the scenes was with like getting these greenlit. It's like maybe because Happy Death Day it wasn't his first film, but it was like maybe because the studio didn't want they didn't want to risk cutting it off from like a teen audience. So they were like, all right, let's make, and it is a comedy. So,
Yeah.
you know, so they made that a bit safer. But I think Freaky delivers on both the slasher, the violence, the kills, and also the comedic parts, and you know, and the body swap gimmick.
Yeah.
You know, Vince Vaughn playing a teenage girl is hilarious, and it's a very fast-paced movie because they have to swap back bodies within 24 hours. So it's not like, I guess Freaky, if I remember correctly, Freaky Friday takes place over a longer period, at least a few days, whereas this one is like it's more like they have to stop the killer and swap bodies back in one day. So it's like running around. It's more hectic, more funny, and like I said, the gore and the kills are really. So I like that one the most. His new movie Drop. I was like, well, now I'm caught up, and I saw that you watched it, so I was like, oh, I should watch it as well. So yeah, we both watched Drop, which is about a single mother whose abusive husband passed away, and after years, like, she's finally like going out on she's met someone on like a dating app, and she's going out on a first date. She's leaving her son with her sister, like for the first time. She's been away from her son in years, and she's going on a date for the first time in years. And she gets to this fancy restaurant that's like on the top of a building, so they have a view of the city.
And she gets every millennial's nightmare messages from strangers.
Yeah, and
I don't know you.
She gets all these threatening messages and memes. And anyway, she gets airdropped. That's why the movie's called Drop. These things that say like, kill your date or we'll kill your son. And she looks at her security cameras, and there's a guy at her
Also,
house.
Creepy why you have security footage all inside your house.
Yeah, true.
Like,
she didn't have any.
Most people don't have like security cameras inside their house. They're normally outside.
Yeah, but even if they do, it's like you'd have the ones. I guess you never had a reason to look outside.
No, I know, but like, it's kind of creepy that she has this kind of the security footage in her kid's room as well.
Yeah, I guess it's just the quickest way for her to be like, oh, the threat is real.
I understand why they did it for the film, but I'm like, is your son going to appreciate that as he grows up?
Well, yeah. Also, she says when she's leaving the house, and she's like to her sister, she's like, big sister's watching, and she points at the camera, so that I guess the movie sets up that she has cameras. I'm like, but wouldn't that be weird as the sister like babysitting, and just being like, okay, she's watching the whole. I mean, she's overprotective of the kid, and that's part of the story or whatever. But anyway, So, I mean, I thought it was only okay. I liked Happy Death Day more, and I liked Freaky more. I think the trailer promises a really fun, kind of crazy movie, and I think Drop ends up being a bit too, like, tonally, because it's like, it's trying to be goofy and funny, but then it's also deadly serious. Like, there's this whole domestic violence flashbacks with the main character, and there's like, you know, it's like
there is a bit
super
of
serious music, and I'm like, they should have maybe either made it a serious movie,
and then the
or
Mr.
more
Beast
of a
looking
goofy.
waiter comes over, and he's like, "Oh, you want some wine?"
Yeah, he's like this really goofy, like funny guy, and it's just like. But then it's like dead serious, and it's just like, you have to kill the date, or otherwise we're going to kill the son. There's a guy with a gun and a mask, and it's just like, what? Like
I mean, for me also, it kind of falls apart a little bit when you're like, this is a really, really expensive, crowded restaurant, right? It's busy, it's going off. And I'm like, one, the phone lines have been cut. No one notices.
Did he cut the phone lines?
Yeah, he did.
Or did he just keep intercepting her?
No, well, she says in the movie, the lines have been cut. And she repeatedly tries to call 911 from like a landline in the reception area or whatever it is.
No, I think she tries once, but then it gets cut off. And
she tried a couple times.
Okay.
And so that was she says the lines have been cut. And then there's all these little bugs around. I'm like, no one else is noticing any of this, even the workers. Like, there's all these shenanigans going on. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like the movie falls apart when the level of technical incompetence that comes along with these kinds of films, when everyone else is just ignoring everything.
When you suspend your disbelief enough for that a super hacker can hack into your phone and and clone it and do whatever he wants, and you know. I feel like if you've bought into that, then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
should just be like, oh, he's just a hacker guy and he
Yeah.
knows everything and whatever. So yeah, I don't think that bothered me much. I mean, obviously there is a whole bunch of other, I guess I don't want to call them plot holes because people overuse that term. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of things. If you think about it for more than a second, you're like, oh, that's dumb. But again, if the movie was more crazy and fun and maybe a bit campier, I think I would have liked it more because, yeah, I was just kind of like tonally, I don't know where I am. And about halfway through, I got really bored. I was like, it's not a long movie. It's like 90 minutes. And so, yeah, what's that, like 45 minutes in? I was just like, all right, I'm good. You know, this is as a Black Mirror episode. At about 50 minutes, you're good to go. You're done. But I was like, we got another 45 minutes to go.
Yeah,
I
feel that.
It got a little bit repetitive.
Yeah, it was. It's. She tries to sneak away and do something to end the conflict or end the situation, and then she fails, and she gets a text message
to the
being
table,
like,
and then
she
like,
gets a text being like,
again.
"You're back, good choice, haha," and like it just continues.
And she's like, "I gotta go to the bathroom." She goes, and then she comes back, and then I gotta go to the bathroom again. And she goes, I
gotta go get some shots now. Oh, yeah.
And her date is just like, "Oh my god," you know.
Yeah. He's the real victim in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't awful, but I feel like, yeah, that maybe they should have picked a lane tonally. Maybe
I think this is a kind of movie where maybe they could have had not two separate protagonists, but maybe we also could have had some other kind of side story going on separately, because I think there's more to the story that could have been told.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if they can flesh out some other aspects of this story in regards to maybe him, or maybe he's getting some text messages, or he's trying to finalize certain things, or even from at home, you know, maybe there's a little bit of a cat and mouse with the babysitter. And
yeah. But you also, you I guess, you know, budget is one thing, but also like the more you go outside of that,
the tight space,
that tight bottle thriller thing. But then again, like also that's maybe a failure of the movie where it's like you're watching it and you're like, yeah, man, I've seen Rope, I've seen Hitchcock. Like, you're not Hitchcock. Like, stop trying to.
Yeah,
you know,
because it did get bloated and boring, kind of repetitive in the middle. But how do you fix that?
Yeah, I think maybe just a tighter script and yeah, maybe I don't know how you vary it up a bit more, but I guess. It's the thing with, like, you know, Happy Death Day was the time loop gimmick, and Freaky was the body swap gimmick, and Drop is, I guess, not really a gimmick, but it's like being...
it's the hostage gimmick. Like
being like blackmailed and being hacked and being forced to do something. I guess that's its own thing. So I'm like, maybe Christopher Langdon... he's getting into like you know, M. Night Shyamalan was like the twist guy, so every movie has to have a twist, and that kind of, you know, pigeonholes you, and maybe this could be a problem for him where it's just like every movie he does has to have a gimmick, you know, and he can't just have a good thriller or horror or whatever. I know he was supposed after Happy Death Day did well, and then the sequel, and then Freaky, he was signed on to do Scream 7. But then the studio screwed it all up because they fired the lead actress. What was her name? Melissa Barrera. And then remember this?
She was a bit too vocal about Palestine.
Yeah, she had like one pro-Palestine tweet, and the
One's
studio
more than
freaked
enough.
out.
Yep.
Yeah,
How dare you?
And then what was her name? Jenna Ortega was like, "Oh yeah, I got scheduling conflicts with Wednesday. Sorry, I can't be in it either," which was, I think, code for I'm sticking with my friend over here.
And again, you know what? Props to her because she doesn't need the money from.
Yeah, I mean, she's bigger than you know. When the first was it Scream 5? Yeah, when Scream 5 came out and she was like the second lead, or not even the second lead, she was like the sister, you know, supporting character. No one knew she was going to end up being probably the biggest star on that. Yeah, but so that kind of fell apart, and Christopher Langdon, the director, left. So now he did Drop instead. So, I mean, hopefully he, you know, can get...
Look, I'll say... I like this a lot better than Hard Eyes.
I haven't seen Hard Eyes. He wrote Hard Eyes, but he didn't direct it. But you and Callum did not like Hard Eyes, and I still haven't watched it. And I'm like, what's the point? Because I know I'm not gonna like it. But I feel like I have to fill out
in the chronology.
Yeah, to fill out the chronology of like Christopher Langdon and also 2025 like slasher horror thriller kind of movies. Nah. I don't know.
That I think we've talked about on the show. That movie gives you mad just blue balls because the start is great. The start is pure kind of like classic slasher, and then it just turns into like a weird rom-com.
It's a problem with a lot of movies. We've talked a lot about like tonal inconsistency, but also like a lot of movies like they never live up to their premise, or they start strong and then they just fizzle out, and it's just like you know. They had maybe a good idea. Maybe Drop is a good idea, but it's like, what did they really do with it at the end of the day?
As you said, it should have probably just been a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
Tighten it up a lot.
Again, and because there are so many shows and movies that have similar premises.
What are you doing
especially,
to just be unique?
Yeah, especially like Black Mirror has like 3 episodes that are kind of like Drop. So it's like, at the end of it, I was like, there's nothing in that I really haven't seen before kind of thing. And it wasn't bad, and the cast was good, and it looked okay. But yeah, I was just, at the end of the day, it was just kind of a whatever movie. And there is some CGI towards the end that, unfortunately, is not good. But,
what can you do?
Yeah, par for the course with these kind of movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't bad or anything. I mean, again, check it out if you're a horror thriller kind of fan and you haven't seen anything else. But I will say, like, I watched Trap, M. Night Shyamalan's movie, and, I'd heard mixed things about that, as with all M. Night Shyamalan movies. And that's a weird movie where I was like, I don't think it's good, but it's just so weird and campy, and there are parts of it that I really liked where I was like, you know what, that's kind of a cool movie.
Trap's interesting because I think the gimmick is that it continues going when you think it's going to finish.
Yeah, and that's also a negative because I was like, oh, maybe the whole thing should have just been in that one space, but then it keeps going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, remember Red Eye?
Yeah.
And I'm like, the best parts of that movie are on the plane. And then once they get off the plane, it's kind of like, okay. You just kind of have to wrap up. You're like, whatever. So Trap is kind of the same, but I was like, it's just such a weird... M. Night Shyamalan's just such a weird, interesting filmmaker. And I was just like, what is he doing, this madman? And I was like, at the end of it, I was like, that wasn't very good. But then I was like, it's kind of awesome, though.
Yeah.
So that's a movie where I was like, that's more campy and fun and silly. Yeah. And I think if Drop did that, better, even if it was quote-unquote bad, it still would have been maybe more enjoyable. You know what I mean?
I can agree with that.
They leaned into some of the craziness.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think these movies are comparable, but M. Night just goes a bit crazy.
Yeah, M. Night's M. Night. And, I mean, at the end of the day...
What's he got coming out next? Some movie called Remain. I wonder what that's about.
M. Night. Yeah, I can't remember.
Let me see. I'll do some quick.
He's always got something in the books. It's interesting, too, because all these last few movies, he's like self-financed. And they're doing not bad, so... I guess it's cool that he's just kind of doing what he wants to do. I guess since
it's an adaptation of a book. Interesting.
Well, so was Knock at the Cabin, but that, from what I understand, like ignored the themes of the book or the climax of the book, which I had problems with that movie as well. But it was okay. But since we've got a couple minutes left, we might as well segue. Because I think you watched this as well. M. Night Shyamalan's daughter made a movie last year as well called The Watchers.
Yes, I've seen that one.
That one I thought was bad.
I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it.
Because that one, I mean, like the premise is like people... Like, it's a young woman, she, like, gets lost in the woods, and she comes across, like, this building with, like, a window, and there's a bunch of people, like, trapped in there, and when she gets inside, she's like, they're like, oh, we've been trapped here, you can't go out at night because there's these creatures and they like to watch us through the window. That's why it's called the Watchers. And during the daytime, they can't leave the forest because it has like this where if you keep walking in one direction, you kind of just loop back and end up back at the thing. And I was like, okay, interesting premise, whatever. And yeah, that's another movie where it's like, it doesn't really know what to do with the gimmick. And then it kind of just fizzles out. And the more they do outside of the building, it's like, okay, what is this? And there's like a whole bunch of CG crap. And I was just like, yeah, I wasn't a fan. But yeah, I mean, that was another sort of one of these kind of gimmicky movies where, you know, M. Night had his movie Trap in 2024, and then his daughter had Shyamalan. She had The Watchers. Now you've got Drop, which has that similar sort of these sort of bottle sort of thrillers. They're all sort of similar budget, maybe The Watchers maybe a bit less, I don't know.
I want to watch the horror version of The Visit. Do you remember that film he did? We talked about that because that's a back in the
movie.
day.
That's a movie I didn't like because it was like, was it funny? Was it scary? It wasn't either. It was like trying to be both.
And then he comes out like the bastard he is and says, "I made 3 versions of that movie."
Yeah, he's like, I made
the comedy version.
Yeah, the comedy, the full horror version, and then the one in between, which is the one that was released. And I was like, I want the horror version because the one we got, I was like, whatever. So yeah, I mean that's another. Yeah, I mean tone is probably one of the hardest things to get right. So,
well, his new movie comes out in October 2026.
Okay.
The book it's based on comes out in October this year.
Oh, so he got in early.
Yeah, he got in early, and he's co-writing the kind of the screenplay with the author of the book. And it's kind of like seems to be like a small town kind of supernatural horror thriller romance. I don't know.
Okay.
But, the synopsis is out there, but I think it gives away too much. So I'm not going to read it out on the air.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, he's one of those filmmakers where even though I haven't really liked a lot of his last few movies, it's like when he makes a new movie, I'm like, I'll check that out. You know it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, he's one that you can't ignore.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't always endorse, but you can't ignore.
And if you watch one of his movies and it sucks, at least it's like kind of interesting. Whereas there are so many movies you watch where it's just like a nothing movie where you're like, that was nothing at all.
And especially in recent years, chances are he made it fully himself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, respect the man.
Yeah, you got to respect that.
Like he's doing it for the love of the game.
Yeah. It's the whole megalopolis thing. It's like whether you liked it or not doesn't matter. This man spent, sold his winery, spent $100 and something million to make this crazy movie just because he wanted to. So, that's awesome.
And, M. Night lives like that on a much smaller scale. You know what I mean? You have to respect it. Like you or not, respect the hustle.
Yeah. I mean, we could only dream of that.
Yeah.
Sort of funding your own movies and then making just enough money to make another one.
Yeah.
That would be great.
That's the life if you get it.
Yeah.
But
when we win the lottery.
When we win the lottery, that's it. Buy us a lottery ticket if you're listening.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
Or if there's an angel investor, rich guy out there.
We'll make a bottle movie in a radio station.
Yeah. Well, we've talked to so many indie filmmakers, Aussie filmmakers, who it's like, we have this location, let's just use it. So easier said than done.
Of course, yeah.
But maybe one day,
we
can do something.
Yeah. We're just about out of time.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We're on all the socials at Tuesday Review AU. That's Facebook, Instagram, Newsmask, Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter, YouTube.
Delete Twitter. The Nazis have taken over.
They have. You know what? I probably won't even post on Twitter.
Thank you, Nathan. That would make me very happy.
We're also on Substack at thetuesdayreview.substack.com.
Did you say YouTube?
And YouTube, yes. YouTube at Tuesday Review.
Make sure you
on all platforms.
Subscribe, yeah.
Rate, review, and subscribe on all like the podcast platforms if you listen.
Yeah, give us 5 stars wherever you listen. Helps us out.
I'm on Letterboxd. I'm Nathan B_90.
I am channeldrifter.
Yep. Callum is Callum Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And Alum is Alum20.
But he never posts anything.
That's it. Well, maybe we'll have a conversation with him. We're like, just update a little bit. Just a little
It's
bit.
so easy. You don't even have to do a review. You just click what you've watched.
Yeah.
and-
Anyway, that's fine. We'll be back next week with more.
Time to start the time loop again.
That's it. Although no, hopefully,
We'll break it this
will be a
time.
very exciting episode next week. 'Cause
Oh,
we'll be
yeah.
talking Mission Impossible. So
Yeah.
get all over it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back next week for sure. Thanks for listening, everyone. Adios, cousins.